Welcome back to Washington Journal. We're joined now by Representative Steve Cohen. He's a Democrat of Tennessee. He's a ranking member on the Subcommittee for Transportation, Infrastructure, and Aviation, also a member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman Cohen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's good C-SPAN's still funded by the government.
It is not funded by the government. What do you mean?
Well, I thought you don't get any money from the government at all?
No, not at all, and we never have.
What a disappointment to Elon Musk. I'm sure he'd like to doge you.
All right. Well, let's get to the reconciliation bill because there were three key House committees that were holding markups. That was Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, and Agriculture on that reconciliation bill. What's your sense of where that's going?
Well, the Republicans might have some trouble in that some of their members want larger relief for their property taxpayers and state and local taxes. It's called SALT. And others don't want as large. So that's a schism within the Republican caucus in the House. And there's some others that don't want to see as much cuts. They want to see more cuts, I guess. Chip Roy wants to see more cuts. And this adds to what they're doing adds to the deficit. And they claim to be wanting to limit the deficit, but they don't. It's not about limiting the deficit. It's about giving more and more money to people who have more and more money who don't need any more money. But that's the Republican Party's mantra. And Trump's only accomplishment, major accomplishment in his first term was these tax cuts, which economists, by and large, just about every one of them that's credentialed and credible, say did not stimulate the economy and was not successful in creating any kind of a boom to the economy, and never do. They've done these things before, and they've always said, oh, it's good for the economy, they'll spend the money, it'll stimulate. Never does. So he's trying to do this again because he did it once. He doesn't want to lose the fact that he did it, but he also wants to take care of himself. Mind you, he's one of the people, and every member of his family, every adult member of his family, I think except maybe Tiffany, makes enough money to where they will get tremendous tax advantages. It's beneficial to people over $400,000 income, but really it's the millionaires and the billionaires who get the big tax breaks. And everybody in Trump's family is a millionaire, and they make $1 million a year. A millionaire is not what it used to be, an accumulation of $1 million. It's making $1 million in a year, and these people make millions and millions and millions, and they're all over. The sons are all over the Middle East trying to get golf courses and resorts and senior care homes and whatever. And he's going to try to facilitate that on this trip, but secondarily to getting an airplane, a $400 million airplane. But I think the Republicans have some problems. I think Rand Paul's against the bill because it increases the deficit. They're not all together, but they'll probably get it together. They'll sit down and they basically, at the bottom line, they'll probably listen to Trump. Trump wants to get the big, beautiful bill, BBB.
Well, Representative Cohen, you mentioned a lot of things there, and one of them was the deficit, and most would agree that the deficit is the national debt is a big problem.
Yes.
Are there cuts that the Democrats would be willing to accept to the Medicaid program? Are there changes that could save money that the Democrats would be willing to accept?
I don't think so. You know, Medicaid you ought to start at the bottom. And you ought to provide, like Franklin Roosevelt, Hubert Humphrey, and other great Democratic leaders of the past talked about, provide what you're judged by is if you provide enough to people who have too little and not more to people who already have an abundance. And that's what these people are doing. They're giving to the abundance and not caring about the people at the bottom who need a little more. Medicaid is one of the things that keeps people alive. It keeps rural hospitals going, which keeps people alive. And to cut people out of Medicaid, to cut people out of SNAP payments, which is sustenance, besides helping the farmers who grow the products that go into the SNAP program, but to the people who need that to stay alive, they're living at the bottom level of economically in our country. To make them the cuts, that's wrong. It's just not where you should be. A moral society would not be that. And I don't think the Democrats will go along with any of those. Now, you want to cut out the tax breaks for the rich, that would help cut out the deficit. The Republicans say they're concerned about the deficit. Well, the biggest place to help with the deficit is to get more revenue to the government that you can then put into deficit reduction, and they could take out all those tax breaks to the wealthy. And that's a big chunk of money that could take care of it. But that's their prime consideration, is tax cuts to the wealthy. It's not the deficit. That's secondary. That's red herring.
All right, and if you'd like to join our conversation with Representative Steve Cohen, a Democrat of Tennessee, he'll be with us for about 20 minutes. You can call us on our lines by party. Democrats, 202-748-8000. It's 202-748-8001 for Republicans and 202-748-8002 for independents. Congressman, you mentioned taking out tax breaks for the rich. Republicans are saying that if those Trump tax cuts are not extended, it would be the largest tax increase in history.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think the largest tax cuts in history are the tariffs. Tariffs are taxes, and Trump just put the largest tax cuts in history on the American people. He calls them tariffs, took away power from the Congress that has jurisdiction over tariffs. So it's really illegal what he did, but it's more of his usurpation of powers in his unitary executive and grab all you can style of politics. But that was the biggest tax increase. This may be the second biggest tax increase, but it's really not. These were temporary taxes passed for Trump. And it also, remember, it took out almost all of the inheritance tax. That's where the super rich get to pass the money on to their children with no taxes to the government. That's been going on for years. We used to have an exemption of like $3 million or something. They raised it to $10 million. They keep raising it, and they basically get away. They get away with giving the kids all this money and just inherited wealth that doesn't help others. And at some point or another, look, here's Gates wanting to give away all of his money. Now, it's a voluntary thing, but he's showing character. Warren Buffett's giving away a lot of his money. He does a lot with the rich people like that. They're giving money to people because they understand everybody needs help, and they need to give it away to 501c3s and eliminate polio and eliminate PEPFAR and help people that may get AIDS from HIV and all. And they're trying to do that. You got these other people like Musk and Trump. It's like, give me more. I want more. They're at the trough. The trough needs to stop. We don't need a trough in America.
And Congressman Cohen, you are the top Democrat on the subcommittee overseeing aviation. I want to ask you about Newark Airport. As you know, there have been radar and equipment outages there. Yep. There have been reports of staffing shortages, poor working conditions for the air traffic controllers. Where do you think this is coming from? Is it from DOGE cuts, or is it simply aging infrastructure? Does the whole system need to be overhauled? Well,
we're gonna have a hearing on tomorrow with 3 experts, not from the administration. The administration wouldn't supply us witnesses. We're having a hearing on where the bill we passed last year, the FAA reauthorization, that has money in there for more and more air traffic controllers and more money for the school in Oklahoma City to get more air traffic controllers and sort money's into the system. We had a good bill, and it's going to be helpful, but it's got to be implemented. But we'll get some answers. I don't know what the real answer is. I can tell you this. I was in Newark, I guess it was a week ago Friday, and my plane was supposed to leave at 7, and when I got there at about 4, they told me it was delayed till 9, and that I stayed around and hung around the Newark airport, and then there was never anybody at the gate from United. United didn't even put anybody at the gate to tell you what was going on. And then about 8:30, I got a notice that it had been moved to a 10 o'clock flight. Still nobody at the gate. This was on my cell phone. And then just 2 or 3 minutes later, they said, you're going to leave tomorrow morning. And I thought, I'm not spending the night in some hotel out here and get up and early in the morning, get on a plane and come in. So I saw on my own, without help from United, there was a flight to Dulles, and I went to 2 different gates, and nobody at United wanted to help me. The gate where the plane was supposed to leave, there was nobody there. The next gate, there were 2 ladies. They came up and they said, oh, we're off at 9. This was 8:35. I thought, fine, adios. So I finally got somebody to help me. It was difficult. The guy was not friendly and nice particularly, but he begrudgingly helped me, got me on the Dulles flight, and I got on a bus and went to another terminal, sat on the tarmac for an hour and 15 minutes because we were 33rd in line to take off, and finally got to Dulles. So
Congressman,
this was before all this stuff. Newark's a mess. I don't know what the cause is. I'm planning to ask questions on Thursday of the experts that we have there. Was this all from previous times? Was the system was it outdated and before the administration changed? And I guess it was, but there were not problems like these 90-second hiatuses where you were just out there in space.
Well, let's hear from the administration. Here's Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy from last week talking about wanting to completely modernize the air traffic control system.
And so what we're going to do, so we're going to rebuild some towers, we're going to rebuild some TRACONs, we're going to rebuild some centers. Not all of them, but we're going to rebuild a few of them that need to be rebuilt. So there'll be some bricks and mortar to this plan. However, everything else is really easy. Everything else that controls the airspace is going to be brand new. So we're going to have new telecom, new fiber throughout the system. We're going to have brand new radios in our towers to communicate between air traffic controllers and with airplanes. We are going to have a ground radar sensors, we'll have new radar for the ground and new sensors on our tarmacs and at our airports. So our air traffic controllers who are in the tower are looking out with binoculars to see airplanes. If it's cloudy or rainy, the weather's bad, it becomes very challenging. We want to have all the tools so they can see where aircraft are at the airport on their screens, on their terminals. We hear a lot of these bumps, these scrapes that are happening at airports. We want to make sure air traffic controllers have the tools to keep airplanes separated, and we want to allow them to see that through their panels and screens. We're going to have a new flight management system that's going to bring efficiency to the airspace. So more people are flying, more planes are in the air now than ever.
Congressman Cohen, your reaction to that, and are you in support of that, and why hasn't that happened yet? Why did the nation's air traffic control system get to this point in the first place?
Well, that's what I'm going to ask on Thursday. I'm not quite sure why it did. I certainly will listen to Secretary Duffy, and it sounds wonderful and good to get all these new tech programs going to improve the system, and that's the flying public's at risk. Now, I said on this C-SPAN, Mimi, I don't know if you were our host that day or not, but about 3 or 4 months ago when I was on, and I got a little brushback from some folks in the up here that all want us to be copacetic and go, oh, we're going to wait and listen to what the NTSB tells us. But I said on this show that it was the Department of Defense that was at fault for the accident at Reagan, because they should not have been having pilots do test runs at DCA when there were flights taking off and landing. And that's what caused the problem. No matter what you say with the helicopter pilot was too high or whatever, if they were not there in the path doing test flights, there wouldn't have been the accident. And they've since banned all those type of flights from that corridor, and that's good they banned them now, but the Department of Defense never should have had them in the first place. Now, Duffy banned them, and then Heggs didn't respond to him, and they had a flight about a week or 2 weeks ago, the helicopter that came through there, apparently, they said with nobody on it, but who knows, going to the Pentagon, and came right through there, and they had to send a few flights and say, don't land, leave, circle, and come back. Defense Department needs to get its act together and stay out of civilian airspace where it's dangerous, like at DCA.